Hey fans, we're back at it, and this time we're here with the top 10 recruits of 2008 and where they are today. Some have gone from top recruits to barely hanging on to roster spots, while others have fulfilled their promise coming out of high school. Before we get to our list, do me a favor and click that subscribe so we can keep you up to date on all of our content. All done? Good. On to our list. After finishing high school, D. Finley was one of the top defensive back recruits in the nation. Finley was heavily recruited by the SEC and chose Florida over his hometown of Auburn. After asking D to put on some weight and switch positions, things quickly went south for Finley, who broke his collarbone and was arrested for driving with a suspended license and charged with resisting arrest with violence. After officers threatened Finley with a taser, the athlete complied and the situation resolved. Finley would be suspended, and a month later he transferred to Division II school Tuskegee. Tuskegee would be as far as the former All-American's career would go. Darrell Scott was the #1 running back prospect in the nation coming out of high school and drew comparisons to Hall of Famer LaDainian Tomlinson. Scott received offers from more than 40 schools and ended up choosing to take his talents to the Colorado Buffaloes. After getting limited carries as a freshman and then complaining about carries as a sophomore, Scott attempted to transfer to UCLA, but they already had 5 running backs on the roster, so he decided to transfer to South Florida. After sitting out his first season in South Florida, Scott rushed for over 800 yards and then declared for the NFL draft, where he would go undrafted. The Dallas Cowboys brought him in as a free agent, but was cut after the 2012 season without playing a single down. Patrick Peterson is the first player on this list to fulfill their high school promise. Peterson was named Defensive Player of the Year in 2008 by USA Today and was invited to play in the U.S. Army All-American Bowl. ESPN had Peterson ranked 8th overall among recruits, and when it came to choosing a school, Peterson was littered with offers. He ended up selecting LSU and went on to have a great college career and would go on to win the Jim Thorpe Award in 2010 for being the best defensive back in college football. Peterson would then enter the NFL draft in 2011, where he was selected 5th overall by the Arizona Cardinals and was named to the all-decade team of the 2010s and has been widely regarded as one of the best defensive backs in the league, as well as one of its premier shadow corners. Jeremy Calhoun was considered the #2 running back in the nation behind our #9 entry, Darrell Scott. High praise, even higher praise, were those who considered Calhoun to be the best recruit out of Texas since the great Adrian Peterson. In high school, there was no questioning Calhoun's abilities. Calhoun was heavily recruited by most of the top colleges, but when Texas didn't come calling, after concerns for Calhoun's grades, the running back chose Oklahoma. He ended up redshirting his freshman year and then was 3rd on the depth chart during his second season and only got 45 carries. Calhoun was forced to miss the majority of the 2010 season due to a serious knee injury, and in 2011, Calhoun transferred from Oklahoma to Division II Angelo State University. In 2013, Calhoun would have his most successful college season, rushing for 930 yards and 5 touchdowns. This would be the height of Calhoun's career. Just how good was Arthur Brown in high school? Before he even stepped onto a college football field, Coach Pete Carroll claimed Brown was the best linebacker he'd seen in 7 years. Coach Bob Stoops predicted he'd win the Butkus Award, the award for the nation's best linebacker, 2 times. Arthur Brown was considered the best recruit to come out of Wichita since Barry Sanders and Cameron Wembley. Brown chose the University of Miami and was the Hurricanes' top recruit. Brown would struggle during his freshman season and switched from weak side linebacker to inside linebacker during his sophomore season. Brown would end up leaving Miami in 2010 and was named in a report by Yahoo Sports alleging that he received impermissible benefits from convicted felon Nevin Shapiro. Brown would transfer to Kansas and had a very productive first season in 2012. He'd be named Big 12 Conference Defensive Player of the Year. Brown was selected in the 2nd round by the Ravens. Brown's time with the Ravens would amount to 17 tackles and a half of a sack. He would bounce around to multiple teams and was most recently released by the San Antonio Commanders of the AAR. A.J. Green was a multi-sport star in high school, but when it came to football, that's where he shined the brightest. He was the number 9 overall prospect in the country. After committing to Georgia, AJ led the SEC in receiving yards as a freshman and did enough in his next 2 seasons to secure himself a number 4 overall selection by the Cincinnati Bengals. AJ Green has shined throughout his high school, college, and pro careers, and although injuries have slowed him down as of late, when he's on the field, there aren't many that are more dominant than Green. This 2020 season hopes to be a rebound one for AJ with the Bengals as the wide receiver has declared himself fully healthy. Coming out of high school, Terrell Pryor was the top high school football and basketball recruit in the country. As a matter of fact, ESPN 150 ranked him as the top-ranked high school quarterback in the country. Pryor was widely recruited in both sports, and instead of choosing his school on National Signing Day, he took his time before choosing the Ohio State Buckeyes. At Ohio State, Pryor flashed his dual-threat capabilities, flashing his track and field speed, and as his college career went on, he was becoming more dangerous as a passer. Unfortunately for Pryor, scandal would strike in his junior year after he and 4 other college teammates were caught selling memorabilia. Multiple media outlets came out that Pryor was also driving on a suspended license, and a report from ESPN claimed that he made thousands of dollars autographing memorabilia for a local booster. Pryor would deny this charge, but the damage had already been done. He withdrew from the university and was eligible to enter the NFL's supplemental draft. He would end up being selected by the Raiders in the 3rd round of the supplemental draft. His tenure with the Raiders showed tiny flashes of the Terrell Pryor we knew in college, but his career never really left the ground. He was traded to the Seahawks, where he'd be released. He ended up in Kansas City, where he would be released, and then the Cincinnati Bengals, where he would be released. After being cut by the Bengals, he switched positions to wide receiver, and in 2016, he'd recorded 1,000-yard season with the Browns. Since his Cleveland stint, Pryor has bounced around the league and is currently looking for another NFL home. Coming out of high school, Will Hill was the top high school safety in the nation by ESPN, Scout.com, and Rivals.com. ESPN had him ranked as the 2nd best prospect overall. Hill was a solid contributor as a Gator on defense and special teams, and was even named to the 2008 SEC football all-freshman team, and was a key piece of the 2009 national championship team. It even recorded the first tackle in the national title game. After his junior year, Hill would declare for the NFL draft, and to the surprise of many, he'd go undrafted. He would go on to the Arizona Rattlers of Arena Football and then finally find his way to the league after being signed by the New York Giants. He would then go to Baltimore and spend 2 years with the Ravens, most notably returning a Drew Brees interception for a score and return a game-winning blocked field goal. Following a failed drug test and 10-game suspension, Hill would end up in the CFL with the Hamilton Tiger Cats and then the Orlando Apollos of the Alliance of American Football League. The league was canceled in 19, and Hill would go on to the XFL and be a member of the St. Louis Battlehawks before the XFL would cancel its operations in 2020. Julio Jones has always been a specimen. In high school, the receiver was so big that he played wide receiver and defensive end. Julio also started on the basketball team and was Gatorade Athlete of the Year in track. Considered 2008's number 1 wide receiver prospect, Julio would go on to Alabama and shine as a true freshman with the Tide. After suffering somewhat of a sophomore slump, Jones would dominate his junior year and then forgo his senior year for the NFL. He was selected with the 6th pick in the 2011 draft by the Atlanta Falcons and is in the middle of a historic career. He currently averages an NFL record 96.2 yards a game and shows no signs of slowing down. Considered one of the premier receivers in the league, Julio is well on his way to a gold jacket when he hangs him up. Daquan Bowers was a 3-sport athlete in high school but chose football and he never looked back. He was Clemson's first number 1 overall football recruit. He would play well during his freshman and sophomore seasons and then explode during his junior season, recording 67 tackles with 26 tackles for loss and 15.5 sacks. He would be honored as ACC Defensive Player of the Year and go on to win the Bronco Nagurski Trophy given to the best defensive player in college football. After his college career, Bauer was widely regarded as the top selection in the 2011 NFL Draft, but would slide into the 2nd round and be selected by the Bucs after medical issues surfaced, which included off-season knee surgery. DeSean would go on to record only 69 tackles in 5 seasons with the Bucks. Bowers would end up on the Edmonton Eskimos of the Canadian Football League before announcing his retirement from football in 2018. So, there you have it, 10 players that used to be household names with only a few you probably hear about today. The 2008 class was loaded with talent, and although many of the players on this list are no longer playing football, Patrick Peterson, AJ Green, and Julio Jones are still at the top of their respective positions. Let us know what you thought about this list, and if there's anyone we missed, if there was a player you thought should be included or excluded, let us know by dropping a comment, and don't forget to subscribe so you can get plenty more content just like this. Well, until next time, sports fans, have an awesome day.